Shalom Aleichem, Erev Tov. Tonight's shiur was dedicated in the Refuah Shlema of Abba Beryl Ben Fege. May he live and be well for Refuah Shlema, B'ezrat Hashem, and to our dear friend Mario Ben Mauricia, Shaar Refuah Shlema. Lehavdil, Elef Avdalot. I also want to dedicate tonight's shiur to my cousin from my mother's side who passed away yesterday and was buried today. Orli Bat Rachel, and Neshama should have Anyan Gan Eden, B'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. We are in the Rambam, Laws of Sanhedrin, chapter 22, the final halakha here. The process of din is very important. And here, in the Rambam's 22nd chapter of the Laws of Sanhedrin, halakha number Zayin, Chet, Tet, 7, 8, 9, is all about the secrecy of the Dayanim. And that is that the Bedin meets, they hear the arguments of each side, they send the people out of the Bedin, they deliberate between them and bring them back in. I told you that in our Bedin, the Bedin is a little bit of the judge and the jury and the lawyers all together. They have various components, different hats that they wear. Because din is so dependent on the Dayanim and who they are, Rabbeinu Rambam rules the following halakha, and this halakha is important. Look at halakha Yod, chapter 10, halakha 10. Dayan, if one of the judges, shehu yodea b'chaverom, that he knows about one of his colleagues on the Bet Adin, shehu gazlan, that he is a robber, or rasha, or an evil person. Okay, give me the scenario. A dayan is sitting in the bedin, and he knows that one of the other dayanim is an evil person. How could it be? That's a question. How can someone be a dayan and be evil?
He takes bribes.
Okay, he takes bribes. Abba, what did you say?
He forced his way to be a judge. He wanted good honor.
Okay, so Rachel is answering like what kind of crime he did. My father's saying, how did he get there? He forced his way up the levels till he made it to the dayanut. So what does it tell you though? What's my question? My question is, how can someone be a dayan and a rasha? How can it be? Chesky, you're saying he wasn't always a rasha, but then he became a rasha. Okay, I heard someone else.
There many times it happened.
Okay, so here Rabbeinu Rambam, by telling you this halakha, is telling you something very unorthodox. You see, the way that an orthodox mind would say is, if he's a dayan, can be he would do something wrong. That's the mentality. Rabbeinu Rambam is saying the opposite. He's a dayan, but he's a dayan is a person. As a person, for sure he can do things that are wrong. You can have a situation, where a person is in a position of leadership, but they are not worthy of the position that they are holding. They have betrayed the trust of the public. And this is something very real. The problem is that we always assume that every rabbi and every Talmid Chacham and every dayan is a tzaddik. I'm not telling you should walk around thinking everybody's a rasha, but to at least keep your head on your shoulders and to recognize. Today I was speaking with a Talmid Chacham, Dafka in New York, who was asking me about a certain giur and this and that, and the next thing. And he told me, but how can a person take money for sitting on a bedin? I told him, I said, listen very carefully. We know the halakha is that if a dayan gets paid, that his din is not a din. The reason I don't say that in the context of conversion is just because people make converts' lives difficult enough. It's not also their fault that the dayanim are crooked people. But on the dayan's part, he has a reckoning to make with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There are some people that lead, but they're not worthy to be leading. And the fact is that we cover up for them all the time. And by covering up for them, we're hurting the people that are vulnerable to them. Says Rabbeinu Rambam, now we're not talking about the community. We're not talking about the people in the Bedin. We're not talking about the president. We're talking now about the other Dayanim on the Bet Hadin. If the other Dayan is a Rasha, it happened to me here in San Diego. I had a lady that didn't live here, but she used to visit the Kehillat sometimes. And I told her I can't help her convert. She's going to have to convert in a Bedin near her. Fine. So we set her up with a reputable Bedin over there. And a year or two later, she came back to visit. I said, no, what's going on? No, I'm not. They haven't converted me yet. Whole story. We had a conversation. What happened? One of the rabbis in the Bet Hadin attempted to assault her in some capacity. I'm speaking quietly. I don't know which kids are here. And I called up the Av Bet Hadin, and I told him. And he said, but I can't believe it. I can't believe that somebody who sits in my Bedin could be like that. Well, you better believe it, because I have a person, and you need to take care of this problem, and I'm going with her. Rabbanit went with her to file a police report. But it could be a situation where there's a Rasha who sits on a Bedin. It shouldn't surprise you. So now the question, what about the other Dayanim? If there's a Dayan who knows that another Dayan on the Bet Hadin is corrupt, Asur litztaref imo. It's forbidden to sit with him on the Bet Hadin. Shene'emar, like it says, midevar sheker tirchak. You must stay away from falsehood. So you can't sit on the Bedin and say, listen, I'm going to rule correctly. That's his problem, what he does. Or, I'm responsible only for myself. When you sit on a Bet Hadin, you are responsible for everybody else who sits with you. If you are the head of an organization and your employees are committing crimes, your partners are committing crimes, you are responsible for that behavior also. And the first thing you have to do is to disengage. וכך היו בקיאי הדעת שבירושלים עושים. And in your Rambam, it might say, Nikiyei hadat. Is that what it says there? There's a famous difference of girsaot, whether the word is Nikiyeh or Bikiyeh. Harav Kapach insists the word is Bikiyei hadat, and he shows that all over the Mishnah, that's how the Rambam writes it, except for a few places where there were mistakes. Maran Shulchan Aruch uses the word Nikiyeh hadat, likely because that was what was in front of him. But those of clear mind in Yerushalayim, this is not a specific group of people. So the truth is, I was thinking, could be Bikiyeh hadat. I once showed you that there was a group of people in Yerushalayim called Avelei Tzion, the mourners of Zion. And they were Karaim, Karaites that felt responsible to stay in Yerushalayim and mourn the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash on behalf of the Jewish people who had gone to exile. And I always wondered if the phrase that Ashkenazim use by Nichum Avelim, Hamakom Yenachem, I'm not going to say Etchem because nobody here should be mourning, Betoch Shaar Avelei Tzion. Not that the Ashkenazim meant the Karaites there, but there's a group of people who took on their shoulders the mourning of Tzion. When we say here, B'kiyei hadat shebirushalayim, we mean the righteous people of Jerusalem, the one who are a head and shoulders above everybody else, not just Torah scholars and not just observant Jews. They are the level-headed, clear-minded leaders of the Jewish community in Yerushalayim. This is what they would osin. This is what they did. En yoshevin badin ad she'yed'u imi yoshevin. For a legal translation of Bikiyei Hadat, the Rambam in the laws of Gitin and the Mishnah. In Gitin, the Rambam says Bikiyei Hadat. He just translates literally as people who are Miyushavei Hadat. They are people that their dat is settled. They have Yishuv Hadat. Mori Harav used to say that Yishuv Hadat and Menuchat HaNefesh, tranquility of the soul, are the hardest character traits to acquire, but they're the most important ones. Nothing should shake you up. Nothing should startle you. Nothing should sidetrack you. You are calm. You are collected. You are balanced. These people of Yerushalayim, En Yoshevin Badin, they never sat to judge in a Bedin, Ad She'yed'u im mi Yoshevin, until they knew who they were sitting with. You know, Harav Kapach and Harav Ovadia Yosef and Harav Yosef Shalom and Yashiv, Aleim Shalom, they sat in a Bedin together for a certain period. I think I once saw a Puzbul. The three of them did with each other. And I once told somebody who was complaining to me about Harav Kapach, I said, he sat in the Bedin with Rav Yashiv and Chacham Ovadia Yosef. Nah, the Israeli government forced them to do that. I said, what a horrible thing to say. That you are accusing 3 of the top dayanim of the Jewish people, that we know that they were tzaddikim, to be sitting on a bedin just because someone forced them. For sure they fulfilled this halakha. They did not sit in a din until they knew who they were sitting with. ולא חותמין על השטר עד שידעו מי חותם עמהם. And they will not sign a document until they knew who else would be signing a document with them. Every once in a while, somebody reaches out to me and asks if I can sign my name on some proclamation, rabbis for this, rabbis against that. 10 times out of 10, I say no. 2 times in my life, I said yes. One was a mistake, and one was not a mistake, but one was a mistake because it was for Israel, and then they ended up putting people there that I should have never. It was during a war a number of years ago in Israel, and they wanted a rabbi. It didn't have to be. What does my signature help a war in Israel? The other one was a document here in Southern California of rabbis who would accept it as synagogue policy to report child molesters to the police. And the man who was going around signing people said that there was only one other rabbi who would sign, but he wouldn't sign if my name was there. See, he was careful about the halakha. So I said, listen, for sure I'm going to do this anyways, even if I don't sign. But for him, his Beit HaKnesset is very big. Try to let him sign on it. That way he'll actually do what he's supposed to do. But aside from that, you have to be very careful whose names you put yourself next to. ולא נכנסין לסעודה, and they do not enter a meal, a feast, a dinner, a wedding, doesn't matter what kind of event it is, עד שידעו, until they know מי מסב עמהן, who is going to be dining there together with them. And this halakha is now made up into 3 parts. Halakha number 1, a dayan is forbidden from sitting on a bedin together with somebody who's a criminal, even if he's a dayan. Doesn't matter how much Torah he knows. Doesn't matter that he feels, he's going to come to an honest judgment here. It doesn't matter. Midvar sheker tirchak. You must distance yourself from falsehood. There is nothing good that is going to come out from partnership with evil people. This is an important halakha. We learn it also in the Mikra. There are a number of Pesukim that tell us similar things. For example, you have in Tehillim, what's the first chapter of Tehillim? Very good. You have to make sure you don't sit together with clowns and you don't walk in the ways of wicked people. We have in Mishle, Shlomo Melech says, "Holech et chachamim yifkam, v'roeh chesidim yiroa." That somebody who goes with the wise people will become wise, and somebody who goes with evil people, fools, stupid people, will become stupid. Also, Mishle also, "V'derech rashaim tate'em." There's a pasuk that the evil people they sweep away all of the people that are with them. In English, there's a saying, "Tell me who your friends are, and I will tell you who you are." I don't know who said it. I'm not sure if there's even a source of who said it, but there's such a saying, and it tells you a lot. You can learn a lot about a person by seeing who they associate themselves with, who they affiliate themselves with. Rabbanit always warns me every time we come to a new place, we go somewhere, she says, beware of entangling alliances. You never know who it is until you know 100 times for sure that this is the person you should get to know. Just be careful. There's a story in the Talmud. Really, it's a Masechet Derech Eretz. I can read it to you? Let me pull it up. Masechet Derech Eretz. Have you heard Masechet Derech Eretz? It's clear Masechet nobody learns. But it exists. It's in the back of Horayot, like in the tiny, tiny little Masechtot back of the Talmud. Chachamim say the following. לעולם יהיו כל בני אדם חשובים לפניך כליסטים, והווה מכבדן כרבן גמליאל. People should always be considered in your mind. You should always treat them as if they are criminals. They are bandits. This is the source of that bitui. When the bitui we have in Hebrew comes from here. והווה מכבדן כרבן גמליאל. You should respect them like Rabban Gamliel, who was the leader of the Jewish people. ומעשה ברבי יהושע. There was a story once with Rabbi Yehoshua. Rabbi Yehoshua was, in the time of Rabban Gamliel, he was the head of all the Chachamim. Masechet De'acharetz is a beautiful story about that. So, we'll get to it. שהשכים אצלו אדם, that a man came to him, ונתן לו אכילה ושתייה, and he gave him to eat and drink, והעלהו לגג לשכב, and he took him up to his attic to sleep, ונטל סולם מתחתיו, and he took the ladder that goes from the attic down, he got rid of it. So you can have your bedroom, but you can't come down till I bring you back the ladder. The guy didn't know that. מה עשה אותו האיש? What did that man do? עמד בחצי הלילה, he woke up in the middle of the night, ונטל את הכלים, and he took all of the things and he robbed them, he stole all the things in the house, וקרחן בטליתו, and he wrapped them in his clothing, וכיוון שביקש לרד, and when he tried to go down the ladder, נפל מן הגג, ונשברה, I think the מפרקתו, that's the word, his מפרק, his מפרקת. Yeah. In English? Spine?
He broke his neck.
Broke his neck. Okay, good. He came down the ladder, but there was no ladder, so he fell and he broke his neck. Thank you, Rachel. The Shacharit, in the morning, השכים רבי יהושע, Rabbi Yehoshua woke up, ובא מצאו כשהוא נופל. And he saw this guy laying on the floor, couldn't move because he was broken. It's like Humpty Dumpty. אמר לו, the man tells him, Ereka, you empty person. כך עושים בני אדם שכמותך? Is this what people like you do? Somebody offers you hospitality and you try to rob them blind. אמר לו, רבי, לא הייתי יודע שנטלת את הסולם מתחתיי. I didn't know, Rabbi, that you were going to take the ladder away. What a fool. He's not talking anymore. He says, I didn't know you're going to get rid of the ladder. אמר לו, ריקה, you empty person. אתה יודע שמאמש היינו זרים בך? Didn't you know already from last night by dinner we were suspicious about you? מכאן אמר רבי יהושע, from here רבי יהושע learned, לעולם יהיו כל בני אדם בעיניך כליסטים, והווה מכבדן כרבן גמליאל. That you should always treat everybody like a criminal, treat everyone with respect like Rabban Gamliel, but suspect him like he's a criminal. You meet a new person. You don't know new people. You bring them into your house, you bring them to your work, you bring them near your family, you bring them into your personal life. Don't run blind after them. You should suspect people in a healthy way, not in a bad way. I can't trust a person until I truly know them. I'll tell this to you in all kinds of ways, but in my home, for example, we have guests. People come and go, in the recent years, Baruch Hashem, my house is filled with children, and new bedrooms didn't get born, just the children did. And so more and more other people, my kehillah, host people for us. But still, we, Baruch Hashem, zachinu, that we have people that stay with us, people that eat with us, or whatever it might be. And I'm telling this also to the people who host other people, so I'm talking to you also. I let people know when they come to my home, I don't care if it sounds rude, if it's creepy, if it's every single room in my house. Every room in my house, except for the room that you're sleeping in and the bathroom. Every hallway, the garage, every side of the house, the front yard, the backyard, everywhere is on camera. And I'm not afraid to check my cameras on Shabbat and Yom Tov, whatever it needs to. I'm not afraid. You're afraid. I'm not afraid. And you should know that from the minute you come onto the property that is my house until you leave, everything is recorded. And it sounds crazy. I live in 2025. You also live in 2025. At the very least, the thing you can do for your family is to make sure that you're careful. I'll tell you a story that happened with us once. Rabbanit, and those of you in Kehillat HaShamayim, you know, because some of you were there. And my parents for sure were there. Rachel, I don't know if you and Baruch were there that night. The Lopez family was there for sure. Rabbanit was at Trader Joe's, here, not far from here in La Jolla. And a very fine gentleman, suit, tie. Yeah, he met Rabbanit, and his name was a very Jewish name. And he was talking to her in a little bits of Yiddish, whatever he was talking to her. And she said, where are you for Shabbat dinner? I don't have a place. Why don't you join us for Friday night dinner? Okay. This guy came over Friday night. No, for sure Baruch was there, because I tried. He was from Los Angeles originally. I tried to get him to talk to Baruch, and he was so rude to Baruch. And you ask the person, "Hi, how are you?" And he says, "Why are you asking?" Because I'm the host, and you came to my house, and I want to say, "Hi, how are you?" Okay. Where are you from? Los Angeles. I said, "Oh, look, Baruch is from Los Angeles. Where did you grow up? Why are you asking so many questions?" Okay, I don't know what to do, so I just let him sit at the table. I told the Rabbanit to put him mamash right next to us. I want to watch him during the meal. Every minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, he'd get up and walk away from the table. It wasn't normal to keep leaving the table. So I told somebody in the Lopez family, just please do me a favor, keep an eye on him. And they kept following him. Baruch, you were there, right? Yeah, you remember, okay. Kept following him, following. To my wife, he was so nice and so kind. And to me, every time I asked him a question, shh. And at the end of the story, it turns out that he had asked one of my children where their bedroom is. And they said, "Oh, it's over there, down the hall." I said, "Oh, show me it." And he started following one of my children to the bedroom. And Baruch Hashem, as though my child knew to run away. And the chevra from my Kehillat grabbed this guy and told him, "It's time for you to leave." Grabbed him physically. "It's time for you to leave." And we threw him out of the house. And he wrote a Megillah to my wife. Devorah, we had such a connection going, and it could have been so great, and you ruined it, and I wish we had tried a second chance, and da-da-da-da-da. And from here, you see, every single person, you should treat them like they're a rasha. You don't know. But it turns out they're a tzaddik, and they're good people, and you know them for this many years. Fine. But until then, you owe it to yourself and to the people in your life to keep yourself safe. The Dayanim have this. Yeah?
Better be safe than sorry.
Yes, of course. Better be safe than sorry, for sure. And especially in something that you, Chaz v'shalom, if bad things happen, you'll never know. But why am I telling? Most of us are uncomfortable. We're uncomfortable. But it's okay that part of you that says, I want to be safe, you're allowed to engage in it. You're not allowed to treat a person like a criminal. You don't come and tie him to the chair, but you're allowed to be suspicious before you let your guard down. I tell this to people who date each other. Forget shidduchim and all of that. You're dating somebody. You're going to bring them home. Would you let this person drive your car? If you wouldn't let them drive your car, why are you letting them drive you? I'm speaking in a clean language. Why is your self-worth so low that you trust everybody with yourself, but not with the things that you own? I could buy you a new car. You crash the car, get insurance. They'll pay for a new car. But yourself, your family, your children, your wife, your husband, there's no policy for that. A dayan can never say, I didn't know, or I knew, but I didn't think twice about it. You can't know. Now this halakha I told you is broken into 3 parts. Part 1, you can't sit in the bedin. Part 2, B'kiyei hadat b'Yerushalayim would never come to sit in din without inquiring first who they're sitting with. So this is a halakha for sure, but it's telling you something more sensitive. It's not that they come to the Bet Hadin and figure out who is they're sitting with. Before they enter the din, they verify who else is sitting on the docket today, who else am I sitting in the bedin with. This is the second part. Let's look at the source of this one. If you turn back in the Rambam, Laws of Sanhedrin, so go back to the 2nd chapter of the Laws of Sanhedrin. Chapter 2. Halakha Yudaled, number 14. So 2:14. It's mamash the end of the chapter. Maybe we'll go back 13, okay? Because I think they're connected. Even though a bedin of 3 is a complete bedin, they can render judgment. The more people you can have in the bedin is better. It's better that you should have a din made with 11 judges than with 10 judges. I don't know if the Rambam would accept this logic, but Rashi explains in Sanhedrin that you're spreading the responsibility, the liability among more people, and you have more opinions that are being involved in the deliberation, which means possibly a truer judgment will come out. I said that. וצריכים שיהיו היושבים כולם שם בבית דין תלמידי חכמים וראויים. They should all be תלמידי חכמים who are fitting to sit on a beit din. That being said, that you should have more than less, the Rambam adds the next sentence. Yudaled 14. ואסור לאדם חכם שישב בדין, it's forbidden for a chacham to sit in the din, עד שידע עם מי ישב, until he knows who he's sitting with. שמא יצטרף עם אנשים שאינן הגונים, because maybe he'll end up sitting with people that are not fitting, they're not proper, ונמצא בכלל קשר בוגדים. That's a harsh word. He's going to be included in the category of people. Kesher Bogdim is a group of people that get together to overthrow the government. Here, overthrowing HaKadosh Baruch Hu almost, overthrowing the Torah. No bichlal bedin, and he's not going to be sitting on a bedin. He's going to be sitting with a group of rebels, people that are uprising against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So from the word asur, what do you learn here? That's a question.
But you got to be careful.
What does asur teach you?
It's forbidden even to try.
Meaning, it's a law. The halakha is, it's asur. It's not a good idea. It's not a good suggestion. A dayan who comes to din has to make sure the people he's sitting with are actually a bedin, and that he's not sitting here with a group of criminals. That's a law. And I think, maybe you'll agree with me, that the Rambam is telling you this, meaning don't think that by adding more people, just random people to the docket is good. It's not a good idea. You should make sure that the people that you add are the right kind of people. If you're going to increase the number of dayanim. Meaning, yes, 11 is better than 10, 10 is better than 3, but 3 dayanim is better than 3 dayanim with 7 criminals. Even if the criminals all dress like dayanim. Back to our halakha in the Rambam, in chapter 22. The third section here, which is that the Nikiyei Hadat in Yerushalayim, they would not sign contracts, and they wouldn't come to eat meals together with people who were evil. Let's maybe look in 2 places in the Mishneh Torah to understand this halakha in context. Maybe before that, just a moment. Do you know how to find the Mishpat Tzedek in Sefaria? I don't know exactly how to get there, but I'm assuming it's under like works of Musar or works of philosophy or something like that. Anybody who knows can post a link to the 10th chapter of Mishpat Tzedek. Mishpat Tzedek is written by Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato. I'm not going to put him in the camp of the Rambam at all, but he has a section on Nikiyut, which some might call cleanliness, but he perhaps more like someone who's innocent, pure, blameless. There are 2 Mishpat Tzedek. You know what I'm talking about?
They keep the fine.
Yeah, very good. How do you translate Niki Chapayim? It doesn't mean clean hands.
Honest person.
Exactly, honest.
Okay, I think Naki is somebody who's like Naki Mikol Chet. He's free of all wrongdoing.
Pure.
Right. Pure. That's a good word. So thank you. I think Chesky posted something now from Ramchal. Mori Harav used to make us study Mishpat Tzedek a lot. I regret that before he passed away, he was writing a work on Mishpat Tzedek. I don't know if he finished it. I got some of the handwriting to look at. I will have a chance to know what happened with it. But there are two Mishpat Tzedek. Anyone know what I'm talking about?
There's the conversation version versus the chapter version.
Very good. So the one that most people know is it's the chapter version, Mishpat Tzedek in regular chapters, and the other one is perhaps the more exciting one, and it's like a story. It's a dialogue, and you can find it. I think they're the only people who publish it. They're called Machon Ofek. I know nothing about them, but they publish a number of interesting works. Pretty eclectic, if I have to tell you, and it's called the complete Mishpat Tzedek. It's called Seder Vikuach, the dialogue version, and Seder Prakim, they translate that as the thematic version. And I think you can find it in Hebrew only, but this one comes in Hebrew and English, the one that's in front of me.
For those listening, I believe Feldheim publishes the dialogue version in English. With the English translation, my father has it.
You sure?
Pretty confident it's Feldheim. I don't quote me on the Feldheim, but I know my father has a copy of a translation that's got that has dialogue version.
Okay, if someone
It's very thick.
okay, that's good to know. Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, was a famous Kabbalist who was persecuted tremendously in his lifetime. I have a shiur somewhere else on Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. What's interesting to me is I have at home, as a Sephardic Chacham, he was very well rounded. Though he was a Mekubal, he belonged to the category of Mekubalim. He wrote a number of plays, like playwrights, performances that he did for his friends' weddings, things like that. Very deep ideas that he shared in the form of a play. And I have some editions printed in the 30s, probably the last time, maybe translated to English. Then there were a few in Hebrew in the 40s and 50s, they published them. And since then, you pretty much don't see them anywhere. And when inquiring as to why people don't publish the plays of the Ramchal, I heard them say that, of course, you have to realize that he did teshuvah later in his life for wasting his time writing such nonsense, and that is a classic Jewish attitude towards, rewriting history. When you study the plays of the Ramchal, you find a tremendous amount of wisdom. In fact, I once considered teaching the plays of the Ramchal until I realized I just don't know enough Torah. I'm telling you in a very interesting, very, very deep Kabbalistic ideas that are woven into his plays. Under the themes of love and romance and relationships and something incredible. If you go to HebrewBooks.org, you can find one of his plays translated to English for free. And just from there, it's pretty cryptic. It's an old translation. Somebody, Goldstein, translated it. And you could maybe enjoy a little bit of the wisdom of the Ramchal's plays. But for right now, he says the following. Midat nikiyut, the character trait of nikiyut, hi heyot ha'adam naki legamre mikol midah ra'a mikol chet, is that a person should be free from any evil and any wrongdoing, any sin. I don't like the word sin. לא די ממה שהחטא בו מפורסם וגלוי, אלא גם כן ממה שהלב נפתה בו להורות היתר בדבר. Not only that a person stays away from things that are averot, that are wrong, but also it relates to the things that the heart entices you to permit that are really forbidden. שכאשר נחקור עליו באמת, נמצא שלא היה ההיתר ההוא נראה לו, אלא מפני היות הלב עדיין נגוע קצת מן התאווה. כי לא טהר ממנה מכל וכל. Sometimes with an honest examination you can find the reason we allow ourselves to do things and we pretend that it's okay is because the desire for that thing is still in our heart in some capacity. אז כן תמשכהו להקלו, and so it pulls a person to be lenient in that regard. אך האדם אשר טהר מזה הנגע לגמרי וניקה מכל רושם רע שמשר את התאווה אחריה, if a person cleans themselves from all desire in the world that pulls them towards such behavior, הנה ראייתו תהיה ברורה לגמרי והבחנתו זכה. All of a sudden his vision and his thought process becomes clear. ולא תטעו החמדה לשום דבר, and desire does not drag him in any direction. אלא כל מה שהוא חטא, אפילו שקל שבקלי החטאים. Rather, any sin, even the lightest of them, תכירהו שהוא רע ותרחיקהו ממנו. He'll recognize that it's wrong and he'll stay away from it. וחלשון הזה אמרו חכמים על השלמים. And this is the language that our rabbis use about the complete scholars. המטהרים מעשיהם טהורה רבה שלא יהיה בהם אפילו נידוד דברה. That they are so pure, they don't even have something a little bit, any leaning towards wrongdoing in them. נקיי הדעת שבירושלים. The men of clear mind in Yerushalayim. If you want to see more about this topic, you can see it there. I don't think that the version of Nikiye versus Bikiye would change what the Ramchal is saying here. He means the same thing either way. But if you wanted to know more about this type of person, there's an entire chapter on it here. Let's look at two places in the Mishneh Torah, if I may. The Yesodei Torah, chapter 10. So you want to open up to Mishneh Torah again. Look for the book of Mada. Find Yesodei Torah. And go to chapter 5. Halacha 11, Yud Aleph. And if one of you is good at Safari and can send out links in the chat box, I always appreciate it. Says Rabbeinu Rambam, and this entire section talks about the concept of Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem, desecrating God's name, sanctifying God's name. I don't wish to get into a halachic conversation of what is considered Kiddush versus Chilul Hashem. Those are phrases that are overused in our communities today. They mean something actually in halakha, and people throw them around like they're candy. Rabbeinu Rambam writes in the last halakha of this chapter, V'yesh devarim acherim, Shem bichlal chilul Hashem. There are things which are in the category of chilul Hashem. V'hu sheyaseh adam gadol b'Torah. And that is if a person who is great in Torah, umfursam b'chasidut, and they are famous for their piety, dvarim shabiriyot meranenin acharav bishvilan. They do things that cause people to speak negatively about them. V'af al pi she'enan averot, and even though they're not actually averot, harei ze mechalel et Hashem. He's considered a desecrator of God's name. Every school child can be guilty of a Chilul Hashem. Not according to the Rambam. A school child is not Gadol b'Torah, Mufusam b'Chasidut, and it's not that. If you judge God or a person's faith on a second grader, then there's something wrong with you. They say don't judge Judaism by the Jews. You should, but by which Jews? By the Jews that purport to follow the Torah. That's who. Kigon shelokeach, for example, a person who buys things, ve'eno noten demei halekach le'altar, and he doesn't pay the money immediately. V'hu sheyesh lo, and that's assuming that he has the money. V'nimtzeu hamocherin tovein oto v'hu makifan, and the people that lent him money, they come now to get their money back, and he has all kinds of tricks to avoid them. Why? If you can pay now, pay now. If you can't pay now, you should have a conversation whether you should get yourself into debt. But if you can pay now and you choose not to, and you do everything that you can to avoid paying what you owe, and you're a Talmid Chacham, you're a Chassid, what does that make HaKadosh Baruch Hu look like? What does make the Torah look like? או שירבה בשחוק או באכילה ושתייה אצל עמי הארץ וביניהן. Or somebody who spends time frivolously eating, drinking, laughing with עמי הארץ. Remember we said last time, who are עמי הארץ? Last week we studied 2 weeks ago. Golem, Am Haaretz. What's an Am Haaretz? Very good. So they're people whose character is okay, but they're ignorant in terms of Torah, in terms of wisdom. Very good. Or he does not speak nicely to people. And he doesn't greet them in a warm countenance. He's an angry person, a mad, fighting person. And anything that's similar to this. I was Friday morning in a Brit Milah, and I prayed Shacharit. I rarely pray anywhere where it's not my Kehillat. I had the luxury this time of praying somewhere else, and it was Friday morning last week, so it was the day after Thanksgiving. One young guy came over. There was a guy in the back. He had 2 pairs of tefillin, Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam, like a little Kabbalistic hat over the last one. And you would see him. You thought he's the Baba Sali's grandson over there. And he was sitting over there meditating in the back row of the Beit Knesset. And this young guy, young Persian Jewish guy from Los Angeles, came to the Brit Milah, was walking through the Beit Knesset. On his way out, he told this guy, "Hey, happy Thanksgiving," something of that to that effect. And the guy looks at him. He says, "I'm a Yid, not a goy." He was also Sephardic, that Yid. I thought to myself, you're supposed to be a person who's nice to people. You smile. You're pretending like you're a chassid. You have 2 pairs of tefillin. Maran Shulchan Aruch says that you shouldn't wear. I mean, you should, depending who you are. You clearly ran out of mitzvot. That's why you're doing extra mitzvot, and you're there meditating in the back of the Beit Knesset, and you're at Tzaddik an hour after Shacharit. You're still praying Shacharit. Somebody comes and tells you something. You don't want to say Happy Thanksgiving? I also don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Just say, thank you, have a nice day, Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, whatever you want. Say whatever you want, but why do you have to be a jerk? If a person is a jerk, then you know he's not a chassid. He's not a chacham. For sure not. And if he is a chacham or a chassid and he's a jerk, then he's a mechalel Shem Shamayim. I don't know what's worse. הכל לפי גודלו של החכם, צריך שידקדק על עצמו ויעשה לפנים משורת הדין. And you, the greater the person is a chacham, the greater they have to work on their character refinement. It cannot be that a person claims to be a chacham and their character is not refined. These things cannot coexist with each other. Oh, he's a great Talmid Chacham, but he's really not nice. He's not really. Those things, they don't go together. וכן אם דקדק החכם על עצמו. And if a chacham was particular about himself, היה דיבורו בנחת עם הבריות, to speak nicely with people, ודעתו מעורבת עמהן, and he's involved with the people. He knows what's going on with them. He cares about them. ומקבילן בסבר פנים יפות, and he greets them with a smiling countenance, ונעלב מהן ואינו עולבן, and he lets them disrespect him, but he does not disrespect them. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have feelings. It means he has feelings, but he chooses not to act on them in a negative way. מכבד להן ואפילו למקילין לו. He gives respect to those people, even the ones that are disrespectful to him. ונושא ונותן באמונה. And he does business honestly. In his finances, he's honest. ולא ירבה באריכות עמי הארץ וישיבתן. And he does not spend excessive amounts of time with עמי הארץ, eating, drinking with them. ולא יראה תמיד אלא עוסק בתורה. He's not loafing around all day long. You see him involved in Torah. עטוף בציצית, wrapped in his talit. מוכתר בתפילין, crowned with his tefillin. You know, I was never a chassid yet, but I miss the days in Yerushalayim where we could wear our tefillin the whole day. There were days like that. Sometimes I still get a chance to put tefillin for mincha, but to have talit and tefillin the whole day. ועושה בכל מעשיו לפנים משורת הדין, and to make sure all of his actions are within the משורת הדין. והוא שלא יתרחק הרבה ולא ישתומם. He shouldn't lose everything. So that's actually interesting. I once gave a shiur. What does it mean? לא ישתומם. עד שימצאו הכל מקלסין אותו. He reaches a reality where everybody praises him, V'ohavin oto, and they love him. Umitavim lema'asav, and they desire to see the way he behaves. Harei ze kiddush et Hashem. This person has sanctified HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. V'alav HaKatuv omer, and about him it says in Yeshaya, Vayomer li avdi ata, Yisrael asher b'cha et pa'ar, and he will say to me, you are my servant, Yisrael in whom I find beauty, I find glory. A Talmid Chacham is somebody who, when you meet them, you cannot help but be in awe of who they are. You love them. You want to see more of them. You love being around them. They draw you into their presence. You can be there for hours and never go away. But if a Talmid Chacham is a person that everybody runs away from, the way that they behave, this part where it says, Umitavim lema'asav, ohavin oto. Rabbeinu Rambam in Masechet Sotah, he talks about a chasid shoteh, a pious fool. And he says there that a pious fool is one who is so exaggerates in their piety that everybody who sees them becomes repulsed by their religiosity. Here's the opposite of that. He's such a chacham. He's so connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to Torah and mitzvot that everybody loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Torah and mitzvot because of them. So Rabbeinu Rambam is telling us to be careful with who we sit. This is not a halacha. You can go have dinner with anybody you want, and you can go to a wedding with any kind of people that you want. And you can join any parties that it's kasher, it's fine. You can do whatever you want. But there's a level of chasidut in a person. The level of chasidut, of chokhmah, let's call it that, because really I'm not talking about chasidut. Level of wisdom that says, I'd rather never go to a place where people behave poorly, a place that I'm going to have to see and hear and experience things that are not good for me. I don't want to be there. That already is the third part of the halakha we just read in Sanhedrin, which is something extra. It's not what you have to do, but it's a good suggestion. It's a hallmark of a chacham to do such a thing. There's one more Rambam I wish to show you. If you go to Deot, so it's in the same book. I'm trying to find you in your book. In chapter 5 of Deot. Rabbeinu Rambam says, Kashem sha'chacham nikar b'chokhmato v'de'otav. I teach this chapter to every groom who is willing to learn halakha with me more than just tarat mishpacha. Kashem sha'chacham nikar b'chokhmato v'de'otav. Just like a chacham is discerned, you could tell who he is based on his wisdom and his opinions. You could tell he's a chacham. V'hu muvdal behen mishar ha'am, and he is separated from the rest of the nation by way of his thoughts and his knowledge. Kach tzarich she'eh nikar b'ma'asav. So too you should also recognize that he's a chacham based on his actions. B'ma'achalo, the way he eats, u'v'mashkehu, the way he drinks, u'v'vi'ilato, the way that he relates sexually with his wife, u'v'asiyat tzarachav, and the way that he goes to the restroom. U'v'diburo, the way he speaks, u'v'hilucho, the way he walks. Uvemalbushon, the way he dresses, uvechilkul devarav, in the way that he speaks, and the way he manages his affairs, is the better way. Uvemasao, uvematano, and his business, his financial dealings. V'yu kol hamaasim ha'elu na'im umtukanim biyoter. And all of these things should be in the most refined way possible. I once read you a story from Chacham Fa'ur, who came to a Shiva house, and someone was complaining that he doesn't dress like a rabbi. And he said the only things that our Chachamim say about a rabbi being dressed should be naki, should be clean, and na'eh, refined. Aside from that, there is no rabbinic dress. You can dress however you need as a rabbi. And you see our Chachamim, where they wore top hats, they wore top hats, and shtreimels, they were shtreimels, and where they were no kippot, they didn't wear kippot. But our Chachamim, most importantly, were concerned with their behavior. Just like they should be wise people who know Torah, who have proper character traits, they should also have proper opinions in the world and thoughts. They also should be people with proper character traits. About eating and drinking, let's look at the second halakha here. Okay, I wish I could read you the whole chapter, but not tonight. כשהחכם אוכל מעט, זה הראוי לו. A chacham who eats a little bit, whatever he needs to eat. לא יאכלנו אלא בביתו על שולחנו. You should eat it only at home. ולא יאכל בחנות, and you should not eat in the store, ולא בשוק, and not in the market, אלא לפי צורך גדול, unless there is some great need, כדי שלא יתגנה בפני הבריות, so he doesn't become disgraced in the eyes of people. ולא יאכל אצל עמי הארץ, and he should not eat together with עמי הארץ, ignoramuses. ולא על אותן השולחנות המלאים כי צואה, and not on the tables that are full of vomit and excrement. ולא ירבה סעודותיו בכל מקום, and in general, he shouldn't be eating feasts everywhere, אפילו עם חכמים, even if he's eating together with Torah scholars. ולא יאכל בסעודות שיש בהן קיבוץ הרבה, he should not eat in meals that have large amounts of people inside of them, especially, remember, if he doesn't know who he's going to be sitting with. ואין ראוי לו לאכול אלא בסעודה של מצווה בלבד. And really, you should only be eating in public in these places that are mitzvah meals, כגון סעודת אירוסין ונישואים, like weddings. והוא שיהיה תלמיד חכמים שנשא בת תלמיד חכמים. And even then, it should be on condition that it's a Torah scholar who married the daughter of a Torah scholar. והצדיקים, החסידים, הראשונים, לא אכלו מעולם מסעודה שאינה שלהם. And the original tzaddikim, Hasidim, the real pious ones in our history, they never ate a meal that didn't belong to them. If it's not their meal, they didn't eat it. And they say there's some people, their favorite meal is the one, their favorite bracha in the world is Baruch she'achalnu mishalo. Blessed is he whose meal we ate. They love eating other people's food. All day long, eat other people's food. And they never like to eat their own food. Like the guy, the lady tells her son, please go next door and ask the neighbor if he can borrow some scotch tape. She knocks on the neighbor, and the neighbor says, sorry, he doesn't have anything. Come back. She says, go to the other neighbor. And he goes to the whole apartment building, comes back to the mom, they won't let us. Nobody has scotch tape. Says, okay, if nobody has scotch tape, go to your dad's drawer. He has some over there. There's some people, they love to take from other people all the time. Our chachamim were not like that. But at the very, very least, there is a sensitivity. It's not a law. It's not a halakha. A chacham who eats with people and goes to meals is not violating halakha. But it's one of the ways of chachamim that they're particular where they are seen, where they celebrate, who they eat with, who they drink in front of, the way they behave in general. And if they taught that to people today, you want to be really religious, be extremely refined, be sensitive, be clean, be pious. Imagine those were the things they taught people. Imagine if you told a person, you can't pray mincha, not because you don't have a black hat, you don't have a jacket, or whatever they're going to tell you. You can't pray mincha because you forgot to bring your derech eretz today to the Beit HaKnesset. You can't pray shacharit because you were a jerk when you're in the parking lot this night. You can't do it. Go do teshuvah, come back and pray. Then you'll be Jewish again. Imagine if that's the way we train people, to be good people. Olam chesed yibaneh, you build a world with chesed, with kindness. By the way, here, when he says here, a person who's a Talmid Chacham marries the daughter of Talmid Chachamim. Why?
Because most likely the type of people that are going to be gathering at such an event are going to be people who are of the people that typically operate in circles of Chachamim, rather people who, don't.
That's good. The people that are going to be there, the environment. Okay, I'm listening.
The environment that he will be with Talmidei Chachamim will also get him to do the same.
Rabbeinu Rambam talks about why it's important to marry the daughter of Talmidei Chachamim. Rabbeinu Rambam tells us that a person who marries a woman, let's say he dies, who's going to raise his children? His wife. And if his wife doesn't know, he says he doesn't know Kitara Shel Torah, the crown of Torah, what will be of his children? They're going to be Amei Haaretz. But if she knows Kitara Shel Torah, if she knows the crown of Torah, what it is, she'll raise her children to be Talmidei Chachamim. Mori Harab was very happy that we live in a generation where there are women who know Torah. So today, I'm not saying the father is not important, but today you can marry a woman who's a Talmidat Chachamim. She knows Torah. She cares about Torah. You know that your home is going to be built on Torah. Our rabbis also tell us that a person should always make sure that their child should marry somebody who's a Talmid Chacham. Why? That's the question.
So that he treats her well.
He treats her well. Who says that Talmid Chacham treats his wife well?
The Torah refined the human being.
But maybe we see people that the Torah didn't refine them.
I guess it boils down to how do you classify or define Talmid Chacham?
Oh.
He defines Talmid Chacham as someone who just knows knowledge, Torah knowledge. Then yeah, you can have a Talmid Chacham who's a Moshe. You know, someone who, but like a Talmid Chacham who, if you define a Talmid Chacham as someone who, is a student of the wisdom in the sense that he allows the wisdom and intellect learning to take effect and actually, follow through on what the character traits of the Torah instills, then by definition, you're gonna have a refined individual.
And I think that's exactly what I'm getting at, which is that a person has to work very hard to make sure that they marry a person who has the midot of a Talmid Chacham. I think that's the part of Talmidei Chachamim we don't talk about. Maybe you'll let me share this halakha, one last halakha, and I'll end the shiur for tonight. Okay, jump with me to the 6th chapter of Deot. Okay, it's one chapter. It's the same book, just one chapter. The next one, chapter 6. You see that? And if somebody could send a link there, that would be incredible also. Says Rabbeinu Rambam in the 6th chapter of Laws of Deot, Derech briyato shel adam. It's the way of a person's creation. Liot nimshach b'deotav u'b'ma'asav achar re'av v'chaverav. That we are influenced by our friends and acquaintances. V'noheg b'minhag anshei medinato. And we behave in a way that is similar to the people that we live among, the countries that we live in. It's true that a person is a Jew regardless of where they come from. But sometimes you'll say, the Jews from New York, the Jews from California, the Jews from Canada, the Jews from Poland, the Jews from Yemen. There are certain midot that we picked up in certain places. I don't want to give examples. I don't want to offend anybody, okay? But I think if a Jew were to come from San Diego to New York and walk down a street in Brooklyn and see another Jewish person say, hey, good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, how are you? And the person probably just walk right by them. And they would consider that to be very rude. Like, why didn't you stop for me? Whereas the Jew from New York is like, if I stop for every Jew in the street, I'm never going to get to the Beit HaKnesset. I'll be there for Mincha. I'm not going to get for Shacharit, for sure not. The flip side is also true. If you're a Jew from New York coming to San Diego, the Beit HaKnesset, and you just came to pray Shacharit and go back to your hotel and the swimming pool, and you're trying to leave the Beit HaKnesset, and 30 people in the room try, where are you from? Or when you want to come to us for Shabbat? You're going to find those people to be equally obnoxious, because I just came here to pray and leave. Please leave. I didn't want to tell you my name. Just let me go. Now, those people are not rude. They simply are influenced by the culture of the places where they live. There is no right or wrong in that capacity. That's just a culture. The thing that we need to be honest about is that we are influenced by our culture. I'm picking on New York and San Diego because I'm assuming we have those people here. I'm sure you felt, Israeli Jews. The feelings you have about Israeli Jews, wait till you hear what the Israeli Jews have to say about American Jews. We're all the same Jews. But the story is that our culture, the place that we live, influences who we are. Whether you like it or not, that's who we are. That's the way a person is created. Lefichach, therefore, says the Rambam, tzarich adam litchaber latzadikim. A person has to connect themselves to the tzadikim, to righteous people. V'leshev etzel hachachamim tamid, and to sit among the chachamim always. Kedei shilmad mima'asehem, so that you can learn their culture from them. V'yitrachek min hareshaim haolchim b'choshech, and to stay away from the evil people that walk in darkness. Kedei shelo yilmad mima'asehem, so you will not learn from their ways. If I want to be influenced by someone's culture, it's going to be from the culture of Chachamim and not from the culture of Rishaim. And he says, "V'cheinim haya b'mdina shemin hagotei hara'im." What if you live in a country, in a place, in a city, in a town, in a community where people are bad? Ve'en anasheha holchim b'derech yishara, and the people do not walk on a proper path. What should you do? Yelech lemakom she'anashav tzadikim v'nohagim b'derech tovim. Get up. You're not a tree. Get up and go somewhere else where the people are righteous and they behave properly. V'im hayu kol hamedinot shu yode'am v'shomea shemu'ata nohagim b'derech lo tova, and if you know that everywhere in the world is corrupt, kemo zemanenu zeh, says the Rambam, like now. Imagine if he said it then, what he would feel about now. Or she'eno yachol lelech lemdina shemin hagoteh tovim, or you're unable for whatever reason to move to a place that is better. Mipnei hagiyasot or mipnei hacholi, because of the wars and the armies or sickness or whatever else. Yeshev levado yichidi, so sit alone, live alone. Kenyan shneimar legatez necha yeshev badad ve'idom, to sit silently alone, be quiet. Vim hayu ra'im v'chataim she'en manichin oto leshev b'mdina. And if you live in a place where they're so bad that they persecute you for being good, until you assimilate into them, they will not leave you alone. A person should send themselves out to the desert, to the wilderness, to the place of thorns, to a place of caves. Go live in a cave, mamash. Get out of town. And don't spend time with people that are forcing you to be evil. So the Rambam says, a person has an obligation to live among good people. If you can't live among good people, move to good people. You can't do that, so live alone. If they don't let you live alone, get out of town and go somewhere where there's nobody. That's how important it is to protect you from the influence, to protect yourself from the influence of other people. The Rambam continues to the next halakha. And he says, recently I put out a video telling people, you cannot have any intermediaries between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And a number of people sent me this Rambam. You're in violation of the Rambam. Look at this Rambam here. I love when people who don't read the Rambam would like to teach me what the Rambam says here. But when you see Jesus in this Rambam, you tell me. But until then, I think I'm right. Mitzvat aseh lidabek b'chachamim. It's a biblical obligation. That's a big word. To cling to the chachamim. Kedei lilmod mima'asehem, in order to learn from their ways. Shneimar, because it says in the Torah, Uvo tidbak, and to HaKadosh Baruch Hu you must cling. V'chi efshar le'adam lehidavek b'shechina. Is it possible for a person to cling to the Shekhinah? Ela kach amu chachamim beferush mitzvah zo. But rather, our chachamim explain to us this mitzvah as follows. Hidavek b'chachamim v'talmidehen. cling to the Chachamim and to their students. Meaning, cling, the closest you can get, are people who behave properly. לפיכך, and therefore, צריך אדם להשתדל, שיישא בת תלמיד חכמים. That a person should try to marry the daughter of a Talmid Chachamim. Now you should know this is very important. In my mouth, I say the word Talmid Chacham a lot. And that's because I usually speak Hebrew in Israeli, not in Hebrew. The proper phrase in Jewish tradition is Talmid Chachamim, Talmidei Chachamim, Talmidat Chachamim, and not Talmid Chacham, Talmid Chachamim. Talmid Chacham means a wise student. But when we use the word Talmid Chacham, we mean the student of the wise. And therefore, the students, the Talmidei, are not the Talmidei Chacham, it's the Talmidei Chachamim, the students of the wise people. And therefore, if a woman she's not a Talmidah Chachama, she's not a wise student, she's a Talmidat Chachamim. What happens when they become wise? When they become wise, they're no longer called Talmid, they're rather a Chacham or a Chachama. But for right now, in that process of Talmid or Talmidei, it's going to always be Chachamim. And if I say otherwise, it's because sometimes I resort to speaking in the colloquial vernacular, whatever people use, as opposed to what is accurate. And the people that hate me for it, they already hate me for it anyway, so please don't join them. Visa bito the Talmid Chachamim, and he should marry his daughter off to a Talmid Chachamim. V'lechol v'lishtot im Talmidei Chachamim, and you should try to eat and drink together with Talmidei Chachamim. V'lasot perakmatia leTalmidei Chachamim, and if you're going to choose to do business with or on behalf of for Talmidei Chachamim. By the way, it's an incredible way to do tzedakah. Chachamim write about this throughout the Talmud. If you could tell a Talmid Chacham, you don't go to work. I'm going to work anyways. Be my silent partner. Part of my job I'm going to do with you. When I need to consult on something, I'll come bother you. You find yourself that even in your business, you are consulting with the Talmid Chacham, and then your masot, everything works out well. And you should connect yourself to Talmidei Chachamim in all kinds of ways. And to cling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. וכן ציוו חכמים ואמרו, our חכמים commanded us and said, והווה מתאבק בעפר רגליהם ושותה בצמא דבריהם. I think we spoke about this last week. That we should sit at the feet of the Chachamim, meaning even if you're going to get dusty, you should choose to sit there than to sit somewhere else. I think I quoted you Rabbi Chaim of Volozhin. Was that this show or somewhere else? That was here, I think. So, I told you Rambam. Can I take a couple more minutes to read you one more important Rambam? It's okay with you? If you and I were to sit together the whole year and just read the whole Tanakh and the whole Mishnah Torah, we'd be very well-rounded Jews. I know a lot of Torah. There are a lot of things you can learn in these two, I know, very simple books that nobody else reads, but they're very important. Let me jump with you to the laws of Isurei Biyah. Forbidden relationships. So if you go back to the Mishnah Torah, click on Kiddusha, and then go to the laws of Isurei Biyah, chapter 21. The last halakha in chapter 21 is going to be halakha 32. Lamn bet. Lo yisa adam bat am haaretz. A person should not marry the daughter of an ignoramus. She met ogala, because if he dies or is exiled, banav ameh haaretz, you. His children will end up being ameh haaretz. They'll be ignoramuses. She'en iman yodat keter haTorah, because their mother does not know the crown of Torah. V'lo yasi bito le'am haaretz, and a person should not marry their daughter to an am haaretz. Shekol hanoten bito le'am haaretz, listen to me very carefully. very carefully, because anybody who gives their daughter to an Am Haaretz to be married, Kimi shekefata untana lifnei ha'ari. It's like a person has tied up his daughter and thrown her to a lion to eat. Because an Am Haaretz, the definition of an Am Haaretz, says the Rambam, in a marriage is makeh uvoel ve'en lo boshet panim. He beats his wife, he sexually takes his wife whenever he wants, and he has no shame. He shamelessly uses the woman that he's married to. That's the definition of an Am Haaretz as it relates to marriage. So then we have to wait for the definition of a Talmid Chacham. What is his definition in terms of marriage? A person should rather sell every possession they own. And marry a daughter of a Talmid Chacham. She met or gala, because if he dies or is exiled, banav Talmidei Chachamim. His children will be Talmidei Chachamim. V'chen yasi bito leTalmid Chachamim. And a person should marry his daughter off to a Talmid Chacham. She'en davar megune v'lo meriva beveto shel Talmid Chachamim. Because a Talmid Chachamim is careful that in his home, there are two things that never happen there. Nothing megune, nothing shameful or ugly, nothing bad, nothing perverse. And the second, there's no fighting. Now that's a big, tall order, because all people fight, especially two people that are trying to share a life together. And all people are going to have something they do wrong in their lifetime. But you remember what he said about Am Haaretz? He does all those things and he has no shame for it. He never recognizes that he's wrong because I'm the best thing that ever happened in the world. When a woman is married to a man who is so vulgar, he is so gross, and he thinks that he's the best thing that ever happened in the world, and they come for help by a chacham, they go to a therapist, it doesn't matter, all the people in the world cannot cure the arrogance of a person who has no ability to acknowledge that the way they behave is wrong. We have a teaching about our chachamim that if you saw a Talmid Chacham do something wrong in the daytime, you should assume that by the nighttime he already did teshuvah. Meaning, the culture of a Talmid Chacham is not one that never makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But the culture of a Talmid Chacham is a person who recognizes they're not perfect and every night, regularly, does teshuvah. I don't want to be that person. I'm sorry that I behaved that way. I should have never spoken that way. If a person is regularly doing that because they're constantly evaluating themselves, they do a serious cheshbon hanefesh. If I could tell you how many times my rabbis, my teachers, have asked me forgiveness for something that they didn't even do wrong, you would be floored. Because the people that I learned Torah from, when they misspoke a little bit or they said something in a shiur they shouldn't have, or they perhaps made a hand motion that they were so sad. Next day, 2 days later, they came over. I'm sorry that I did that. I didn't remember. I didn't even know what you're talking about. The definition of a Talmid Chacham is pure refinement. A person that is constantly working on their character. You can never know who a person will be. And when your children get married, you never know. Those of you who have children who are married, some of you, even you married people, you don't know who they are. But the one thing you can know is what kind of person are they? Are they the kind of person who is capable? When Natan Hanavi, Rabbanit once gave you a class about Natan Hanavi. Natan the prophet comes to David and he tells him, you've done something wrong. What does David do? What does he do? Chatati l'Adonai. I sinned. I sinned. That showed you that David HaMelech was a Talmid Chacham. But Ramchal considers him a Naki, which is a fascinating word to use about David HaMelech. He's a person who you knew no matter what was going to go wrong, because people are normal. Even Talmidei Chachamim are normal people. They have the same Yetzer Hara other people have. But at the end of the day, the difference is a Rasha stays with his Yetzer. He's proud of his Yetzer Hara. He has no shame of his Yetzer Hara. Talmid Chacham is a person who's constantly trying to do better, and primarily with the people who shares his life with. His students, we mentioned last week already, how a Talmid Chacham should behave to his students, to his wife, this week we're talking about, inevitably to his family, because who else? It's not that he's never going to make a mistake, but rather he's never going to stay there. And that's something that every parent wants to know, my child is going to be with a person who's constantly trying to do better. That kind of person I can get behind. Even if today they're this or tomorrow they're that, doesn't matter. You also have to make sure that your children are the same way. They know how to admit failure. They know how to admit when they do something wrong. They know how to say, I'm sorry. There are people, I know them their whole life, they've never said the words, I'm sorry in the sentence. Unless they told you, you should say, I'm sorry. Then the only time they said, I'm sorry. Such people, don't do anything with them. They have nothing to do with you. There's nothing good that can come from a person who's always right. And if I could, and that's what Binyamin was saying, if I could put it on a billboard somewhere, what is the definition of a Talmid Chacham? What is the definition of Am Haaretz? Go look at the way they treat their spouse. Period. Look at the way their home functions or doesn't function. It's a judgment? Of course it's a judgment. And there's nobody who doesn't have struggles. But what do they do when things get hard? When things are easy, it's beautiful. When you're standing in the family photo shoot in front of the Hanukkah candles, you're all dressed up, that's a beautiful time. Everybody gets along then. What happens an hour before that when you're trying to set up the Hanukkah candles? Or an hour after that when the guests are coming over? Or what happens then? Are you a good person? Are you a decent person? You have the right to call yourself a Talmid Chachamim. And if you are a person who hits and abuses and does, you're an Am Haaretz. An Am Haaretz is somebody that people should avoid. And so I said one last halakha. It's right now 10 o'clock, so my last halakha for tonight. Last. I'm closing the books. Rambam ended that last thing about meals, going to a meal. The Talmid Chacham makes sure there's certain original tzaddikim that never ate a meal that belonged to somebody else. I want you to go with me to one last place in the Mishneh Torah. And if you go to the book of Kinyan, you want the laws of Zechiyah Matana. I don't know how to translate that to English. But I see that Chesky is fast on Safari, so maybe he'll send us and we won't have to know how they translate it because he'll send us a link. In the 12th chapter, the last words, mamash, the last words of the book of Kinyan. It's all about gifts and receiving and giving. Halachas Yud Zayin 17. Rabbeinu Rambam writes the following. Hatzadikim hagimurim. The complete tzadikim, the ones that are really, really tzadikim. Ve'anshe ha'maaseh, and those people that are people of good deeds. The best in our people. Lo yikabelu matana me'adam. They strive never, ever to receive gifts from other people. Ela, rather, botechim b'Adonai baruch shemo. They put their trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, blessed be His name. Lo b'ndivim, and not in wealthy people. V'harei ne'emar, and it says in Mishlei, v'soneh matanot yichyeh, that the one who hates gifts will live. And this sentence of the Rambam is very difficult. It's very difficult. And it's complicated. But it's something that, as I'm ending the shiur, and I think the Rambam is ending a whole section, not of Kinyan I said, but the laws of Zechiyah Matana, he's ending. This whole section usually ends off with something a little poetic. There's an ideal. And the ideal is that people should never be beholden to other people. What does it mean, soneh matanot yichyeh? You're not really living life if somebody else dictates for you how you live your life. In that way, you're really just a slave. Kind of like we studied the Hanacham on Tuesday night last week. I gave a shiur on rabbinic contracts. And now some Chachamim mentioned you should never sign a contract for longer than 3 years. Why? What was the logic? A contract longer than 3 years is considered, what did I say last week? Slavery. It's considered avdut. You're not a slave if you have a 5-year contract. But the fact that someone controls your life for so long is a type of slavery. You maybe see it as job security, but really, job security means do what I tell you, you'll have a job forever. people should experience in their life some type of independence. If I'm going to be as honest as I can before I end the shiur, Merabanit, maybe she's a tzadikah gemura, definitely from the Anshe Maaseh. I'm still trying to get there. But now it's the most difficult month in the calendar for every organization in the world. Because starting today, tomorrow is what they call Giving Tuesday, and then they go all the way to the end of the new year. You'll be inundated with emails and text messages and phone calls and donate here and charity there and multiply this and match that. And every organization in the world needs money to survive. But something that I know some people, my treasurer is here, I have to be careful. She does an incredible amount of work, and you should see how much treasure she gets because of it. Nothing, only grief. Hashem should bless her double and triple. But we have always had it in our mind here at Shiviti and in everything that we do. That money should never be at the forefront of anything that has to do with Limud Torah. Never. Not to charge for events, not to charge people for... This is a relationship. And part of that has given us the freedom to say the things that other people can't say. It's because there is nobody holding the leash. There are definitely donors. Everybody in this room has helped us in some capacity in the last year, the last 10 years. But there's never any one person who says, I hold the reins, and therefore you shouldn't bark. Don't say that word. Sit. Nobody. It has given us the freedom to be able to teach Torah in a way that I don't think many other people get to experience. I know the special thing that we have here in this Bet Midrash. We're now going on a trip. Sure, there are people, there are communities, they're going to pitch in here, pitch in there. However, that entire trip is not bankrolled by any person. We decided that to close off this year, we need to see the people in New York, we need to see people in Philadelphia, the ones in DC. Baruch Hashem, there's a community in Miami we want to get to know and to teach and to share. And so that means we have to step up to the plate and do it. And when does it come back? Maybe not in 2025, maybe in 2026, maybe in 2028. Kadosh Baruch Hu always sends the right people who say, I really believe in what you do. I want to be a part of it. But when we talk about a Mishpat Tzedek, we talk about building a Sanhedrin, we always complain about rabbis, and we complain about Talmidei Chachamim and the yeshivot, and what are they creating. The one part we never complain about, how many of us, I'm obviously not talking to you here, how many of us hold the Torah hostage? Because the model of Torah that we have built is we pay rabbis, we pay dayanim, we pay Talmidei Chachamim, we pay Rashi Yeshiva, we pay the kids' school teachers, we pay, so that they say only the things we want them to say, or maybe not the things they should say. And then when we're looking for courage, we're looking for leadership, we're looking for people who will step up to the plate and do what is right, they're nowhere to be found. Because nobody wants to bite the hand that feeds them. And so people told us way back when, in 2015, when we started Shiviti, that in the model that we have, we're going to run our community into the ground. That's what they told us. That everybody does things the other way, and everybody takes money for everything, and everybody charges to do weddings, and everybody does everything. This last Shabbat, I'll tell you a true story. Last Shabbat, in our Kehillat, we didn't have a sponsor, not for dinner, and not for lunch, and not for Sudah Shishit, and nobody piped up because everybody's feeling the pressure of the end of the year, everybody. And then Motzei Shabbat, one anonymous family sent in a check to the Kehillat to cover all the meals for the next 2 weeks. How does it work? It works because there are people that appreciate that there are people that don't live only for money, and I appreciate you tremendously for giving us that freedom. As I'm ending off the shiur here, and next week will be one more shiur before I meet you in person in 2 weeks from now. I cherish what we have together because I feel that in this reality, we can dream of a Sanhedrin, because who's going to tell us not to dream of a Sanhedrin? We could dream of a Mishpat Tzedek where rabbis are honest and faithful and they're not corrupt. We could dream of a world where men don't abuse their wives and women don't abuse their husbands and children are raised to be Talmidei Chachamim, because who is going to tell us not to? Who is going to say you can't dream like that because the community expects differently? Nobody. You and I have maybe created that cave of the Rambam. The whole world is blown to smithereens and everybody's going to go wherever they go. We all have a little cave that we can retreat to. It might sometimes be a Zoom class. It might be a busy basement in Brooklyn with a subway running over it. It might be a retreat in the mountains of New York, and it might be somewhere in Florida. Who knows? It's for sure this little bit of Knesset here. It's a little corner of the world where we are free to dream of a Torah that is free not just from money, but a Torah that is free from corruption. Because we trust each other to put ourselves on the line, to put our belief on the line, to give one last chance to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His Torah. From all the bridges that were burned, we're trying to build one bridge that goes forward. And so, if I haven't said it enough, they say it's Thanksgiving weekend. I told you I don't celebrate it. I'm very, very thankful to you. I couldn't do what I do. The Rabbanit cannot do what she does. All of us couldn't do what we do at Shiviti if it wasn't for every single person sitting here. And so, I'm grateful to you. I appreciate you. HaKadosh should bless you. Should bless us also. We should continue to be able to doing it. This model works. It works. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has allowed it to work. And when I asked Harav Peretz in 2015, I said, Harav, we're starting a whole new community. There's a lot of machloket here, a lot of things that people don't want this community to happen. How do I know if I'm doing the right thing? And Harav Peretz told me, there's one way you know if you're doing the right thing. I said, how? He said, if there is siyata d'shmaya, if you see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps you make things happen, it's the right thing. And if every time you try to do something, you hit a brick wall, then it doesn't mean, it means you're on the wrong track. And so I tell you, the amount of siyata d'shmaya we have experienced together, and I get to see it sometimes. As the rabbi here, I know a lot of things that sometimes you only get to see pieces of. The siyata d'shmaya that collectively we have is something incredible. It's unbelievable. And I bless us that until 120 years, in good health and happiness, we should have each other to do this together. Ad biad Gula Tzedek, until we end up in Yerushalayim Mir HaKodesh, we're able to pray together in the Beit HaMikdash. We'll be able to go back to our Chachamim, Muvata Lamakom. We'll come to that place of the Sanhedrin. B'ezrat Hashem, I dream about it every day because the people that I learn Torah with, they tell me that I can. Thank you very much, Chavet.